Can you guys see this?
We sure can.
Okay, so during this time, like we had quarantine, and this is a 2020 of Christmas. In December 8th, there was 13, like almost 13 and a half million COVID cases reported. December 9th, the next day, there was 100,000 people hospitalized. And the December 26th, there was 2 million people already vaccinated, estimated around 2 million people vaccinated already with their first dose. The next 2 days on December 28th, there was 100,000 hospitalized. And then the next day, it jumped, the COVID cases jumped to 19 million. So, um, the rules during this time that the government set in place was that people had to stay home. It was highly recommended by the government to stay home. Yes. We were also supposed to have closed family gatherings only. That would be like maybe like 2 to 3 households, like around like 4 people each household. So it's like really small amounts of family gathering. There was social distancing and washing hands, and to wash hands frequently. That's what you were supposed to do. Face covering was required everywhere you went for this Christmas. And if you wanted to travel, you had to get a test and then quarantine after that test if you were positive or negative, and, and like after you traveled. And then there were more requirements and restrictions that varied in all states. I'm not sure of all like the different states, but like these were the main rules that the government set for COVID of 2020. Next one would be COVID of 20 the next year, this year that just happened on December of 11th. There was 49 million COVID cases. That's a big jump from previously where it was like only like 20 million, you know. The next day, it was estimated about 122,000 new COVID cases per day that were being reported. December 22nd, there was average around like 62 million people that were vaccinated, fully vaccinated. I mean, that's really good. December 28th, it jumped again to have about like 198,000 new COVID cases per day that were being reported. And on the last day, December 31st, there was 53 million COVID cases. Um, and then there were like new rules added that unvaccinated people should wear a mask in indoor public spaces, but they weren't required to wear them outside. Vaccinated people didn't need to wear a mask anymore during this time. You still had a social distance, 6 feet, and it was preferably, uh, you would rather avoid indoor gatherings of larger groups and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, that's all I have for the stats on COVID-19. And then we also have like personal experiences if you want to get into that right now, or we would want to get into that afterwards.
No, I think that's perfect. I can say I actually spent part of 2020 in the state of Utah. My mother-in-law had surgery, and because I was working from home, I was working on my computer. Um, I was able to go and spend time and help her in her recovery. So it was really interesting to see the difference between California and Utah in their response to COVID, because California was pretty, um, I would say that we were pretty on it. We were really responsive and made adjustments accordingly. But Utah was a lot slower to make some of those changes. and they had a little bit of resistance making some of those changes. And so some of the states that were slower to make those changes, it really became it was actually a little bit scary because you knew that when you left the house to go to the grocery store, that people weren't going to be wearing their masks and they weren't going to be distancing, and so the chance of getting sick was a lot higher. So it made, even if you didn't have to quarantine, it felt like quarantine anyway because you wanted to stay home and stay safe. Especially since somebody was recovering from surgery, we wanted to make sure that we didn't get anyone sick. So it was a very, very different experience from California.
Any of the teachers want to give their experience on COVID and stuff like that?
In my case, me and my girlfriend have a pretty big family, so it was really hard to really follow all this social distancing and masking rules. But yeah, we wanted to keep everybody safe. So some people were there, some people were not there. A lot of people stayed with their own family, the people that lived in their house, they had their own little Christmas. We FaceTime people, so we can like connect with each other still. Um, but yeah, it was we just try to make it as normal as we can, but yeah, we were really really careful. Um, so yeah, it was a pretty different Christmas from other years, like so we had to FaceTime people and stuff like that. So any other teachers would like to share their experiences?
For me, um, having the quarantine with COVID was interesting because going to class, it was very different because it really changed up my workflow because I would go to school, and do a lot of my work and be very focused at like the school because it wasn't at my house, but like staying at home all day and doing all my work is like a lot of distractions, and it was kind of like difficult. Is it wasn't kind of able to go to school also because uh, I hadn't gotten my driver's license actually, so it was a very different, hard kind of time for me education wise. But personally, it was also just I wasn't able to like see a lot of my friends. So it was just really hard personally in my mentality and my just or how like happy I was. It wasn't a really nice time not being able to see my friends or just see people. So yeah, and my family wasn't able to come together a lot. So yeah.
Personally, I've enjoyed some of the changes. So presently, my wife's the college that she teaches for is up north, about 2 hours away. But because everything was going remote, uh, she was able to stay home instead of commuting during the week. So before COVID, she would have to drive up on Monday and come back Friday. But now she could stay down here with me, all the time. And it was a lot nicer because I got to see her more often. But some of those changes have lasted because even though they're allowing people to return to work, a lot of these jobs that people have been doing traditionally in person, they found that they can do it just as well remote. So it hasn't been so great for the airlines. Some of those that rely on business travel have shut down and gone out of business because people are realizing they don't actually need to fly out to this country to have this meeting. So some good things have come from it too, I think. Somebody had a question.
Like I remember last year, my dad, because of the pandemic, my dad cannot come back from Bangkok to Taiwan. So, like we had to use line to connect each other, and then when we were taking pictures, because like we had a big family, and when we were taking pictures, my mom had to take her phone and let my dad online and take a picture with him, like online. It looks very weird in Taiwanese culture because like it looks like someone is not alive. It looks really weird.
Yeah, it's sort of like you're holding a memorial picture of them or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
It looks really weird.
I've seen a few of those where somebody can't be there and they just, phone in like Zoom or Skype or whatever.
Yeah.
It's nice that we have those options, being able to see family remotely.
I know that it's kind of weird, but I keep thinking about how, I mean, even if this had happened, if we all lived 100 years ago, we wouldn't have those options. We would just be cut off from so many people. So of course this is not to belittle or make it sound like those are small problems, because being away from your family is very hard. Um, but I think it's also really wonderful to see how creative people get so that they can still stay in touch and still share special times and moments with their family too. So I'm really sorry to hear about that. That has to be very, very difficult. To add a little bit more about our discussion. Oh, Ryan, can I share my slides? Thank you. So when the COVID pandemic hit, schools were suddenly, if my presentation will go, schools were suddenly whoosh, empty. And it was really weird. So while I teach at the college level and I teach adult students, my dad teaches fifth graders. And so they are, oh, how old are fifth graders? 10-ish?
I don't know. It's been like 20 years since I've been a fifth grader.
I think they're about 10 or 11. So he teaches fifth graders. Oh, sorry, I think it's thanks. So he teaches fifth graders. So it was really weird for him because suddenly he had no kids in class. And we were seeing different programs started by the schools to help kids continue to learn. And so we had laptop programs. And so schools would organize laptops for students who didn't have them at home or computer access at home. And then they would also get weekly packets of work materials that they would be doing, so that that way they could continue to read and practice writing and things like that that they would still do in class. Um, and so it was a real challenge because it's hard, and I'm sure we have had so much fun with you tonight, but I'm sure there's been some moments even tonight where it's like, "Ah, that's a little bit boring, right?" It's hard to stay focused for a long period of time. That's okay. We're human, right? It's okay. So with students, suddenly students have to stay focused all the time, but now they're staring at a screen for 8 hours. It's really hard. Okay. So we were suddenly, as instructors, trying to find ways to be creative, to engage students so that it would be easier to focus, and easier to be able to participate together in class. So we also saw some problems happening, not just with students keeping focus, but suddenly parents had to be home, right? And there were some, some jobs parents can work remotely, and they can work at home and they can be there for their kids. But with some types of work, you can't work from home. My husband, so Jared, was working at a place that makes machines for food processing. And so because it's in the food industry, he has to be there in person to make those machines. And so he can't bring a giant machine home. That whole machine is bigger than our living room, right? so so he had to go to work. So people who had that situation and couldn't stay at home now had a really big problem because they had no one to stay home with their kids, and that's not safe. So it created some really interesting problems for parents, but we were also trying to find interesting solutions for that as well. For some students, our schools also started doing a food program. Um, so again, now that parents have their kids at home all the time, now they have to cook lunch at home. But if they're in the middle of the workday and they can't do that, um, the schools would have these lunch programs where they could come and they would pick up lunches for their kids. And some schools were even taking lunches to kids at their houses, for kids who maybe didn't have parents who had cars, or maybe didn't have reliable access to get there. So we really wanted to make sure, as much as we could, that we took care of kids to make sure that they were healthy and safe and fed. So it was a really big program.
You can see in this photo too the difference of opinions on how people take COVID seriously.
Mm,
The
some
ladies
people,
and yeah, the ladies handing out the food are trying to not get sick serving all these people, and you know, this first lady isn't wearing a mask. The folks in the truck behind them aren't wearing masks.
it,
So
it's been a hard adjustment.
yeah,
Absolutely. We were really excited at the point it started to turn around, and we started getting vaccines. Teachers were prioritized for the vaccines so that we could start getting kids back to school where it's easier to focus and easier to pay attention. So teachers started getting vaccinated, and then we were really excited when students could start getting vaccinated. And so as these vaccines became available, um, some states and some school districts started creating policies that would have students required to get the vaccine if they were of age. And same for their teachers and their staff. They would have to get the vaccine if they were able to. And so, preparing for students to come back, teachers would try to make as much room in their tiny classrooms as they could. We had to get creative. So, some students had um, uh, plastic that they would put around their desks. You can see that there's a lot of students missing, there's a lot of empty desks. So, to try to help students be safe, some schools did um, like a stay home and go to school day. So you would stay home on Monday and someone else would go to school, and then they would stay home on Tuesday and then you would go to school. And so that way we could keep our classrooms with less people in them. So we really had to get creative. Some schools were fortunate to have the space to spread out. Um, but you can see here, some schools don't have that space. But it's nice that now we have some vaccines and now we know a little bit more, that we can implement some nice policies to help our students and our teachers. But what about you? What was your experience with school? How did it impact you guys? Or if you have any questions too, this is a really good time for questions. No questions? Okay, so um, to wrap up, I wanted to extend from all of us. Oh, did somebody have a question? Thought I saw. Oh, I thought I saw hand raised. Okay. Um, To wrap up, I want to extend from all of our teachers a big thank you so very much for coming and talking with us and letting us share some of our culture and for sharing your culture with us. It has truly been a wonderful experience. So, we would love to, if you would love to keep in touch with us, we will be happy to share our contact information with your teachers. And that way, you're welcome to reach out to us. And if you want to write us messages or emails, we would love to continue to hear from you all.
Uh, Hi, every students, please say thanks for all the teachers from Americans, and thanks for all the teachers. Today is so great to share us with the history of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and the most important one is that you share with what happened during the COVID-19 in America, and I think that's quite important for us students, because during this period, our students also had a hard time to survive during this period. Maybe they will feel lonely, and maybe some of their parents, just like you, need to go out and they don't have their parents to stay with them. But from your experience, I think our students get some comfort from your experience, because maybe we can look positive on COVID-19. Everyone can survive, everyone can live a better life after we get well with the the virus.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also I also need to thanks for the Toby's library experience. That's top five library right in America, and I think all of our students are just very impressive, and I think they just feel it quite interesting to read in such kind of beautiful and a nice library. So I think maybe our students from Taiwan, you can say something for for our teachers in the last 5 minutes. Can anyone just raise your hand and say something for our teachers? Because for 2 days, I believe you have learned a lot from these teachers, and we need to appreciate their efforts and their time. And I hope all students, you can just raise your hand and volunteer to talk something to our students, to our teachers. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Any volunteers?
Thank you for these Tuesdays, like teaching us. Like I learned a lot of new things. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. We enjoyed all of your participation.
Even my cat.
So, teacher Sophie, so if our student would like to leave the contact information for your student, how do we do that? We leave to you or something, or we put in the chat what you want us to do.
Maybe you mean the teacher's email, right?
Yeah, yeah. Our teachers in the United States, we hope they,
Uh-huh.
student
Maybe
can
we can
contact.
just put in the night group, and we teachers in Taiwan will give it to all students.
Okay, okay.
And we
Thank
can
you.
arrange maybe in a meeting, maybe
Okay,
in next semester or yeah.
all right. So the student at Rio Hondo College, uh, you will if you are okay, if you don't want to, just let me say no. Otherwise, I'll put your email address at the line group to share with the teachers in Taipei group. Then then they will share that with their students. So if in the future anybody want to contact with you.
And with Taiwanese and with students, we really will welcome all the teachers, all the volunteer teachers come to Taiwan. And we promise that we will give you a nice trip in Taipei or even around Taiwan. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you can, mhm.
yeah, after COVID, after travel is allowed, and the college still have the program, both college, Rio Hondo College and Cerrito College, we still have the study abroad program. We'll take students to Taipei and to support the teachers to teach English in the classroom. And my hometown is in Taipei, so usually I will lead a student over there. So uh, I'll take you to the night market because I was there pretty much all the time when I was a kid, right? So I hope in the future the program resume and I can be with you in Taipei. Thank you.
And if all the teachers you want to learn some Chinese, and the Chinese course will begin in June, and we will provide the basic Chinese classes and all business Chinese classes, and for traveling and culture Chinese classes. And we believe all the teachers here will give you a very nice class, just like you give us the class. Very interesting and very good Chinese class. We will provide for you all the teachers.
Yeah, thank you. So another thing I want to tell the every single volunteer here from Rio Hondo College and Cerrito College and Cerrito resident, each one of you will receive a certification of appreciation from Taipei City,
Yeah, sure.
also from Rio Hondo College and Cerrito College. The reason is because of your contribution, the Taipei City will provide the class similar like this, but in Chinese, and will do online Chinese for our community. The student can take and community member can take the short-term Chinese class in our community education classes, and the MOU is going to be signed. Sophie, the president said we're ready in April. Okay, so March we are not ready yet. So April we'll sign the MOU, and all of you will be invited. I will invite you because you will be recognized because your contribution to build these two countries exchange cultural program, and hopefully you will be ambassador to invite your friend. It's free, remember, it's free, and you invite your friend or relative members to taking the short-term Chinese class either at Rio Hondo College or at the Cerrito College. And thank you for Taipei City. Thank you.
And thanks all the teachers, and thanks for Professor Leo. And just remember, all the courses are free. It will be online.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the students who volunteer here and the community member like Toby. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, and thank you for the Taipei students. Thank you for you participate this program and to exchange the culture with us. Thank you.
And I will collect some students' feedback at the end of the program, and I will send it to Professor Leo, and maybe you can send to all the volunteer teachers.
Okay, I'll do that. And we are doing the video, so I'll send you a video soon too. Okay?
Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right, so I guess our student can have 25 minutes break. Okay, so you can turn off your camera. We have a 25 minutes break. Okay, and we're coming back 8:30, and Toby will be on the first one. Okay, thank you, student. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
Nice to
bye.
meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, Kai.